Hello there and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Kristine Kugler and I'm currently a professional dancer on board Royal Caribbean's Ovation of the Seas. In today's video, I want to talk in depth about how I got here, how I became a professional dancer, what my training looked like, my audition story, some tips and tricks. Also on my Instagram, I asked you guys to let me know if you had any questions about becoming a dancer in the industry, so I'm going to be answering all those questions at the end of this video. I do have a video speaking about the same thing that I filmed probably over a year ago now, and I feel like my experience has changed so much, I've learned so much, so if it sounds repetitive, it's because I have the same story as I did last time. But I did want to acknowledge a lot of your DMs and a lot of questions that you guys might have, and maybe go into more detail about some things that I didn't touch on in my last video. Alright, let's just go ahead and get started. My training started the same as many dancers out there. I could not stop moving and dancing around the house, so my parents signed me up into baby ballet when I was about 2.5 years old. I absolutely loved dancing, and I then transitioned into doing tap and jazz when I was a bit older, and when I was 8 years old I joined the competition team at my studio. That is where I definitely learned my determination and motivation for this sport. I learned my technique. I was working so hard every single day, was training and really refining that technique. Now, I wouldn't say at this time I knew that I wanted to become a professional dancer in any way. I just knew that I loved it and I loved training for it, so that's what I worked on. If you guys didn't know, I'm from Miami, Florida, so when I was training as a young dancer in Miami, the competition is so high. So as a young dancer, I was never really in the running for winning these giant events, and I was really just doing it because I had so much fun dancing. Though I am so thankful for it now, at the time of being 11 and 12 years old, I was very disheartened because the competition was so intense and I was so young. I just wanted to do it for fun, and the girls around me were all super talented, so I never really thought I had a shot at anything. So at that point, I did want to quit dance and stop competing. And for this, I'm so thankful for my parents because they were never the kind to force me into dance, and even though I was pretty good at the skill that I was developing, they never forced me to compete. They never forced me to do anything I did not want to do. So at that point in my life, I put dance at the back seat and I was focusing on school, my friends. I loved gymnastics, so I tried gymnastics and rhythmic gymnastics as well. I was also a Girl Scout, so I was participating in that a lot. So at that point in life, I wasn't really super focused on dance. I just was trying to be a kid. That's something that's so valid for any sport, professional athletes in any way. A lot of us have gotten our childhoods robbed from us because we were training so hard. So that's something I'm so grateful that my parents never let me do that. They fully wanted me to be a kid, and if I wanted to dance, then that's what I got to do. And I was so lucky that they would support me into going to classes, but they never forced me into that sort of life. So then my life story is at 14, I moved to a very small town in Georgia, and there were no resources there for dance at all. And I had just come from Miami where there was so much competition. Every girl I looked left, right, and center was an amazing dancer. All the studios around me were promoting dance as like an after-school activity, but there was definitely no sort of training anywhere around me to get me to be a better dancer or to compete or just further my dance training at all. So when I had all those resources that I had in Miami stripped away from me, all the amazing talent, the amazing choreographers, the amazing studios that were readily accessible to me, this is when I discovered my own love for dance and realized how much it makes me happy, how much I had such a determination to get better and pursue a career in this. That fire was burning in me when I was 14 and 15 years old. My dad, because he's amazing and he knew all of this, he set up a little dance studio in my garage, which if you've been following along here for a while, you know that I was in there every single day. Night and day, I was in this little studio training myself, improvising. My mom used to have to start putting a time limit on me because I would be blasting music and dancing until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I just was so obsessed with dancing. I only wanted to get better. I was so motivated. It was definitely hard because I did not have a teacher or mentor in any way. All I was really doing was watching YouTube videos and improvising all day long, just putting on music and dancing and seeing what comes out of it. So that was my whole training journey while I was in high school. I also begged my parents to go to conventions every weekend, so I'd go to a few conventions a year. I would literally sign up online and just ask my parents to drive me to the venue. And then my last 2 years I competed independently, so either I would self-choreograph something, I'd reach out to a choreographer, or sometimes a friend of mine was a great choreographer and I'd ask them to set a piece on me. And then I would just take this solo to competition auditions and compete and just get the adrenaline of the stage. Also during the summers I would try to go to different studios around and train, and I also went to a few intensives. I did the Florida State University summer intensive when I was 16. I did the Rockette summer intensive when I was 17. That's something that really developed my training, was focusing really hard on these intensives over the summer. So now we moved past high school and we're in college. Now, again, like I said, there's no resources around me. So I went to school for business management and entrepreneurship. I am so lucky that I now have a bachelor's degree and a minor in something that is completely different to what my career is right now. But it does make me laugh because everyone of course assumes that I went to school for dance. But just because I was studying business every day did not mean that I stopped dancing at all. Again, I did all of high school while still dancing every day in my garage. So that is exactly what I did. I went to school and I'd go back to my garage and all I would do is train. And at this point I was also teaching at different studios, so I would use those studios to train in. When I was 19, I got accepted into a dance company that was based out of Louisiana. Through that company, I traveled to Louisiana once a month and trained with a bunch of fellow dancers. I was learning so much when I would drive over to Louisiana for a weekend. I was just really immersing myself with other dancers and getting to learn from really talented choreographers. After a few months of doing that, I was asked to join the academy that was there based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So within 2 weeks of my Christmas break, I packed up all my stuff, I ended my lease, I went to my school and got all my classes transferred to be all online classes, and I moved all my stuff over to Baton Rouge to Louisiana. When I was living there, I was training so hard with like 8 fellow dancers. They are all incredible, they're all so talented, and we've all gone our different ways, which has been so beautiful to see. But when we were there, we were training non-stop. We were teaching each other, we were choreographing on each other, and this was cross-training as well. So we were running, we were working out, we were doing improv classes, we would have mock auditions, we were learning from different choreographers. Like, I really got to immerse myself into training, and I feel like that definitely developed me into the dancer I am today, because I had that freedom to discover my style and figure out what I wanted to do while also having the support of being taught some technique, which I hadn't really had in a very long time. Obviously that was very challenging, but at the same time was so rewarding, and I'm so grateful that I had that opportunity. Unfortunately, that academy no longer exists, so I can't recommend it to you, but there are definitely other resources like that in the States. There's different conservatories and companies that you could train with. Also, I would never ever discourage anyone for going to school for dance. I have many friends that are dance majors, and it just wasn't in the cards for me personally. So when I was living in Louisiana, COVID hit, I moved straight back home. Thankfully, I had that little studio in my garage that my dad built me, so that is literally where I lived during the entirety of COVID. At the time, my academy was doing Zoom classes, so we were on Zoom every day training. I was taking online classes from CLI Studios, T Millie, and The Space TV. Those were all resources that I used while I was training at home and online. And that's all I was doing until I was able to go back to Louisiana, see my friends, train with them for a few more months until we all kind of split off in our separate ways. For the next year, I just focused on college and getting my degree, becoming a normal college student because I had lived away for a little while. I really wanted to graduate early, which I was luckily able to do after college. So I graduated college December of 2021. At this point, I went full send. I knew I had a degree on my back, and I said, now is the time to do everything that I've ever wanted to do in dance. If I ever saw an audition around me in Orlando, Atlanta, Tampa, those were usually the places I would go to audition. Still, they never really came around that often, so it was just about stalking their socials and seeing when they would host auditions, and as soon as you knew they were, I was hopping in my car and going straight to the audition. At this point in time, I was working for a dance competition, and I often get questions on what to do if you're waiting for auditions or you're just kind of in that period of life where you don't have a job and you don't know what to do with dance but still kind of keep dance in your life. And I would highly recommend working for a dance competition. If I ever wanted to go into choreography, I feel like that would be such an amazing plan to get to meet different studios. And I was traveling every weekend, so even though it was like obviously not a dance job, I wasn't dancing, but I just highly recommend that job for anyone who is in that transitional phase. Now I'm going to speak specifically on my Royal Caribbean audition process and journey. My actual first audition for Royal Caribbean was at 18 in Orlando. I auditioned, I think I got through the first maybe 1 or 2 rounds, but didn't make it through. So I got cut, I moved on. still kept auditioning when I could. I submitted online as well. Didn't hear anything about that. In hindsight, I'm so glad that I never heard anything back those times because I was able to finish college, and if I was offered a contract while I was in college, I don't know if I ever would have gotten my degree. So everything really works out when it's meant to. But I am going to talk about my successful audition process for Royal. I went to the in-person audition in Atlanta in February of 2022. And I actually went for a hip-hop audition, and no one would look at me and call me a hip-hop dancer, but like I said, there's not many opportunities around me, so I was going to take hold of anything that I absolutely could. I surpassed the hip-hop audition, and then we moved into the technique round, and this is when I was able to show my true self because that's me. I'm legs and kicks and turns. I love that stuff. They were able to see that side of me as well as my hip-hop versatility. To be honest, it's something about just like the person that I am. I will go and try at anything. There are so many talented dancers out there, but I don't think every dancer is versatile. To be honest, I feel like I did have that edge because I didn't have specific training in one style. Any class I could take a part of, anything I could do, I just tried to be the most versatile dancer I could be. That's just a personal tip because I know I was gonna walk into a contemporary audition and every girl would look similar to me, would dance similar to me. We were doing the same choreo. The fact that I had also gone to a hip-hop audition, they at least had seen me twice in that day and not just once. So I finished the hip-hop audition. They asked me if I could tumble, and I can as well. And that's another thing that I just added on to my training because I didn't have anything else to do. So I did learn how to tumble when I was like in high school. I knew I did not have the edge of technique to get me into a lot of rooms. So I said, I'm just going to learn a little bit of absolutely everything. So therefore, I'm a hip-hop contemporary dancer that can tumble. So I did a few flips. They recorded me and then they said, thank you so much, can you come back for the contemporary audition later? I was already planning to come back to the contemporary audition. For everyone who signed up to audition, they sent out a video of a contemporary combo so that you could come to the audition already knowing it and already having it memorized. We got through the contemporary round, they made a cut, we went through the technique round once again, they made another cut, and then it was time for the commercial audition. So this was heels, and I'm not a heels dancer at all. Fake it till you make it. I just have this confidence because I love to dance. I feel like people can tell that I love to dance when they watch me dance. I had never danced in heels before I started this job. I did the Rockette Summer Intensive where I bought $25 heels, and that is how I did the entire intensive. But no, I did not know anything about being a commercial heels dancer. But guess what? I faked it and I got through the audition, and then they sat us down and told us we were in the books. When I left that room, I did not hear anything until June of 2022. And that is when I received my first contract for Odyssey of the Seas. And it was the most amazing experience of my life. I'm still forever grateful. So my first contract on Odyssey of the Seas was from September 2022 to August of 2023. And then I received my second contract for Ovation of the Seas, which started in December of 2023, now until October of 2024. Now I'm gonna answer some of your questions, but I have to go head over to Tech Run and go to work for the day. So I'm gonna come back and then I'll answer all the questions you guys asked me on my Instagram. Hey guys, little jump scare, I know. I'm ready for shows tonight, but I did want to answer your questions and get to everything you guys asked me on my Instagram story. Make sure you follow me on there to get updates on where I am in the world and what I'm up to, and you also can participate if I ever do another video like this again. Also, I got a ton of questions, so I had to narrow them down, and I mainly stuck with some that were asked multiple times. Your favorite workout wear? I love Lululemon. I know, very basic, but my absolute favorite brand is Aerie. I could live in those leggings, love all of their sportswear, and I also love that I wear them as casual outfits throughout the day. Aerie is probably my favorite brand, but next to Lululemon. What is the best tip for picking up choreography quick? I am not the fastest at picking up choreography. It's definitely a skill that I've had to develop because, like I said, I did a lot of improving. I did not take many classes. That's where online training and conventions really helped me because that was not a skill that I practiced very often. My biggest tip and what I usually focus on while I'm taking class is just trying to pick up the base choreo, and once we get that down, then I'll add the details that the choreographer wants, and then I'll add my style on top of that. And that's usually the way that I structure a class for my own brain and the way that I pick up choreography the best. Another thing I've really learned the past few years is that every time I let go and let the expectation of having the combo down perfectly disappear, I do so much better in class. Honestly, that's the best advice I've been given, is just let go, trust yourself, you know that you worked hard during the class, and let that show at the end of class when you're performing in groups. What made you want to become a dancer? Who inspired you? So I love being on stage. I feel like I'm born to be on a stage. I know not everybody feels like that, and I feel like it's such a gift and a blessing that I get to do something that entertains other people. I find so much fulfillment out of that. And also the cliche saying that if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life, and that is exactly how I feel when I dance. So trying to pursue a career in this is ultimately what I always wanted to do, because I knew if I was dancing, I never feel like I'm working a day in my life. It's something that I feel like God put me on this earth to do and glorify him with, and therefore that is why I just love to dance. Also, just as a dancer, I've learned so much in my personal life. It's brought me confidence, it's taught me how to take risks and go after what I want, be very independent. Those are things that dance has truly taught me, and I take that as a personal lesson. So that's a huge reason why I think I've pursued this career, is just because those attributes are also just who I am. Who inspires me? A lot of people, actually. Of course, there's like so many dancers on social media that inspire me a ton. Also, when I would cruise as like a teenager and I'd watch the dancers on stage, I was so inspired by all the performers I've seen. How did you find out about the auditions, and do you have an agent? So I think I mentioned this a little bit before, but I truly just stalked social media pages and websites. I had a rotation of websites that I'd probably check around 3 to 4 times a week. Search on there, see if they ever posted new auditions, following RCCL Talent, Norwegian, Disney auditions, things like that. Definitely just do your research and see what companies you would want to work for. Follow those casting accounts, and if you do know the casting directors, you could follow them as well, because sometimes they like to see your page, and if you have posts of you dancing, they get to see a bit more of who you are as a dancer. That's what Instagram is amazing for in the dance industry, is that we really promote ourselves on there. It's like our own resume. And do I have an agent? No, I actually do not have an agent. For me personally, and I said this in my last video, I don't think you need an agent. I think an agent is an amazing way to get your foot in the door. Once you're here and already have your foot in the door with this job, unless you want to go back to land life sometime soon and pursue some gigs out there, I don't think you necessarily need an agent if you just want to do cruise ship dancing. I know many dancers who do have agents and many that do not. There's definitely pros and cons to each. A huge pro of not having an agent is that you get to keep your entire paycheck for yourself. You don't have to pay a certain percentage to anybody, and especially when we're here for 10-11 months at a time, taking a chunk out of those paychecks every month could be a lot of money, so it's just something to consider. Never say never if I do want to pursue land dance careers as well. I know that agents are the best way to go about that, so definitely take that with a grain of salt, because I have never had an agent, but that is my own experience. And no, I don't have an agent. Yes, you can do it yourself. Jazz or contemporary, and why? I would say that jazz definitely made me fall in love with dance. That was like one of the first styles of dance I ever did. But right now I would say contemporary. I've definitely become a contemporary dancer the older I became. Contemporary is just so vulnerable. Like, if you ever watch me do contemporary, that is full transparency exactly who I am. So I would say jazz helped me fall in love with dance, but contemporary keeps me in love with dance. What made you keep coming back to the cruise life year after year? Definitely the people, the memories, and the travel. I know that I may not be a dancer for my entire life, but the memories are things that are gonna last me forever. Yeah, that's definitely what keeps me coming back with no questions asked year after year. Please speak about how to make and structure a dance show reel. I do have a few show reels on my channel if you did want to just take a look at what they look like. I just try to focus on putting a few clips that show who I am as a performer. If you've ever done any shows, add a few clips of those in there. Use it as a tool to send to companies so that they can see the way that you move and the way that you dance. What made you decide to work on cruises? So if you're not new to my channel, you probably know I was a big cruiser growing up. My family loved to cruise, and we cruised a lot on Disney Cruise Line, and watching the Disney shows and the dancers on those ships inspired me to come here and pursue cruise ship dancing. I'm blessed to say I knew that I wanted to do this from a very young age. Didn't really know how I was gonna get here, but I knew that this was what I wanted to do. That is my personal story on why I always wanted to work on a cruise ship. What has been one of your favorite dances and shows that you have been in throughout your dance career? I have 3. Okay, I'll explain. I used to be in this dance company that toured with a company called Dance Rev, and we did this massive production. It was like 10-15 minutes long, and it was about the creation of the Garden of Eden. Being a part of that production was something that changed my life. I realized how I could use dance as a form of like worship and glorifying God. It was such a powerful piece to be a part of, and because of that it's made a big impact on me. I think about it all the time. But besides that, show wise, I would say Showgirl on my last contract was one of the most amazing shows I've ever been a part of. Choreography wise, incredible, costumes incredible. Also knowing that the audience loved it so much. We probably got standing ovations every single time we performed that show. It brought me a lot of pride to be a part of a production that spectacular, especially such a big show for Royal Caribbean. And then currently I would say The Beautiful Dream, which is one of the shows we do here on Ovation of the Seas, and it is just such a touching story, and it's more of a musical theater Broadway show. And when we get to look out in the audience and see how many people were touched by the performance at the end of the night, it's just so fulfilling, and because of that I'd have to say that's one of my favorite shows I've ever been able to perform in. And the most frequently asked question that I got was, what advice would you give to a dancer in training who wants to work on cruises? Okay, I would say the piece of advice that has helped me the most, and the way that I feel like I've gotten into any room I've been a part of, is fake it till you make it, baby. I often get imposter syndrome because, like I mentioned in this whole video, I don't really come from a professional training environment. I never really knew anybody who was doing this, so it's not like I knew exactly what to do to get to this point. Something I will say is that I walked into every room acting like I knew exactly what I wanted to do. When I was 19, I went to a cruise line audition that I wanted so bad, and I remember being so desperate for it. I trained so hard for it, and I got cut first round. And I remember how that felt to be cut from something that I wanted so bad. Something I kept telling myself was that I know that no one else in this room wants this job as bad as me. I know that sounds like cocky and arrogant, but in this industry you cannot walk in with your head down. You need to walk in and show them what you have, and if you give them everything and they cut you, that is so validating to know that is not where you're meant to be. I remember when I walked into my Royal audition, I gave them everything I had. I gave them every ounce of energy and determination and love for this craft that I could, and I left that room knowing that if I did not get a job, I was super content in the way that I put everything out there. So much of this job comes down to luck and casting, so just because you gave it your all and didn't get it does not mean that you failed in any way. I would feel more failure walking into a room acting like I have no confidence and not knowing what I'm doing and scared and not giving them my all because I was trying to pull back because I don't know what I'm doing. I would feel way more failure that way than if I just walked in and said, screw it, this is me, I have nothing to lose, I will give you everything I have, and then see if they take it. That's literally the attitude I've had at everything, at competitions, at auditions, at conventions, and sometimes you fail. I've failed so many times. Do not think that I just walked into one room and got this job. I would be very surprised if you found anyone in this industry who hasn't been told to our face that we're not good enough, that they don't look the right part, they're not a good enough dancer, they're not skinny enough, they're not pretty enough. We've literally all heard it. Me and my friends have all heard it to our face. From everyone I know that's ever had this job, I can personally say they've all believed in themselves enough to even walk into the audition room. You cannot let fear control you. You have to find confidence in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. I know that was a whole bunch of different stuff added up into like a little ball of advice, but that is what I would love to say to every dancer out there. Believe in yourself and find that confidence, even if you have to fake it to walk into the room, because once you portray that out there and you give it your all, people will see how much you want this job, how much you love to dance, and how much you're really meant to be where you have to be. Hopefully that all made sense, and again, this is all my own experience and I just wanted to share that with you guys. I hope this helps any dancers out there who either want to pursue a career in cruise ships or also just in the dance industry in general. You guys already know what to do. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Click that bell so you're notified every time I make a post. Make sure you follow my Instagram to stay tuned on where I am in the world and what I'm up to. And wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having the very best day. I'll see you in the next video.